What's up everybody, it's Victon here with my first League Starter build guide for 3.15 Expedition League, the Skeleton Mage Necromancer. A top tier League Starter skill in my opinion, and certainly the safest Necromancer skill to choose, and probably the best one as well right now. With Carrion Golems sadly being nerfed league after league, I just can't recommend them as my top choice right now. And yes, we do have the new Summon, Reaper, and Absolution skills, which both could turn out to be great skills, and I do plan to release League Start guides on those, but we're not exactly sure how well they're going to perform, so it's a bit risky to choose them just yet. Skeleton Mages, on the other hand, have been League Started with so many times, and so many people have told me how much they love the build and how well it performed with such little currency invested. For this league, I've spent some extra time on the build, coming up with the best possible League Starter for Skeleton Mages, and I think we have an absolute winner here. With just under 5 exalts worth of invested gear, I was able to kill a rare The Feared map, Uber Elder, Maven, and all the in-game hardest boss fights. It honestly doesn't get better than that. Tons of damage and really great survivability. This build is even viable in hardcore, which I'm not usually able to say. And you guys might know that a ton of content on this channel is minion builds, from Carrion Golems to Spectres to Zombies, and I've been playing them year after year after year because the playstyle is so chill, it's super easy to play, even for new players or casual players, so I really like building these and making guides on them for you guys. I've played every summoner build imaginable, and currently, this is, in my opinion, by far the best League Start summon build out there. So if you're wanting to play a summoner type build, overall I'd say this is probably the build that you want to do for a League Starter situation, and it's going to get you really far. And to briefly mention the patch notes, we actually got almost no nerfs to the build. We'll be doing less damage just like every other build out there, but it's nothing substantial or build breaking, so overall this is still going to be a very strong build as a League Starter, so I'm pretty happy about that. Now, before we get too far into the guide here, I wanted to mention a few things. I'm not going to be spending a ton of time going in depth on the build here. Instead, I think what's going to help you guys out the most is I've created some really great leveling and League Start resources for you guys. I'm going to be including 2 full gem leveling guides, one being a detailed version and one being a sort of cheat sheet. I'm also going to have your POB with very detailed step-by-step guide on how to level your passives and ascendancy points. And lastly, I've actually included a spreadsheet full of trade links on the exact items you want to buy for the low budget, medium budget, and high budget versions of this build. You can always check back here to this document and get your gear upgrades with a single click that takes you exactly to the trade site and items you want. I've really tried to make it as new or casual player friendly as possible, and even for the veterans out there, getting everything that you need in one simple place just makes life so much easier. So that'll be mainly what this guide is about, is going over those resources I have here. I've been showing you the gameplay showcase in the background as well, so hopefully you were able to kind of get a look at what the build looks like in action, and are super excited to dive into it and have a successful League Start. And lastly, before we dive into the path of building, like always, I just wanted to mention that I do have a stream on Twitch, so if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to come on over there and ask away. I'm always happy to help you guys out however I can with any of my builds. The link's going to be in the description below for my Twitch. Also, if you're interested in supporting the channel, I do have a Patreon linked below, which is going to get you access to my community Discord, where I do personal build reviews all the time, and everybody's in there just talking about builds pretty much every single day. So it's a really great community, and I definitely suggest you guys check that out. Alright, so enough of all that, let's hop right into the guide, and feel free to check the timestamps below if you want to skip around certain parts of the guide. First and foremost, let's hop into the path of building. Alright, and here we are, and like I said, we're not going to go super in depth into the build here. I will mention a couple of things, and more importantly, I'm just going to kind of show you guys how to use the path of building to get the most out of it for what I have done with here. So I think the biggest thing for you guys to note is you come down here to this where it says regular finer build, and you're going to go through all of these points, and it's actually going to show you guys how to level up as you go with your points. And it's also going to show you up how to level your ascendancy points and in which order, from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. So pretty useful for that. So let's go down to the regular final build. I'll just kind of mention a few things. Good thing to note here is we don't get the cluster jewels until the very last part of the build. We do stop at level 95, which I think is pretty good for a League Start build. If you're going past 95, I don't think at that point you would really be a League Start build guide. At that point, I would say it's more of a min-max or in-game version, and I will have a guide for that here pretty quick. And I also do have one for last league as well. But so you can come down here. Like I said, the last points are going to be your clusters down here. Good thing to note is we actually are getting some pretty cheap clusters. I don't know if they're going to be more expensive if more people play this, but typically your skeleton clusters are not as expensive as, like, you know, other Spectre clusters or Golem clusters, stuff like that. It's actually going to be a little bit cheaper because we get some different stuff. Like we get Call to the Slaughter, which most builds actually don't pick up. One really important thing to note here for the clusters is you got to get Blessed Rebirth. Even if you just don't get an 8 passive or 9 passive, and remember guys, 9 passives, totally fine. You don't need 8. If you can get a 9 for much cheaper, get a 9 for much cheaper, totally fine. And that's going to be in my trade links that I have later for you guys. I'll explain that there too. So this is like the most important note here. Blessed Rebirth, minions have 20% increased life or whatever. Minions casted or created recently cannot be damaged. So for 4 seconds after creating your minions, they cannot be damaged. And that saves you, so it's such a huge quality of life. So I just really wanted to mention that to you guys. That should be one of your first purchases for sure, is getting this medium cluster jewel. Just craft it yourself. You don't need to buy one. If you want to and buy it a little bit cheaper, that's totally fine. Even if you can't get renewal on there, just getting Blessed Rebirth is going to be a huge quality of life for you guys. So definitely try to get that. Now I've also included a second kind of, it's very similar, but it is going to be a little bit of an upgrade because you're going to get a Glorious Vanity here and with Corrupted Soul on there. So you're going to get some extra energy shield on top of, basically you get 15% of max life as extra maximum energy shield. And since we are going block, and we're not going Glancing Blows, we're going to have a lot of block in this build. So we're going to be using a shield that gets you back life and energy shield once you block. Now, it's going to be much later in the game when you get the one that has an energy shield. For a while, you're just going to have and life. So once you get the and energy shield, you can pick up this node right here, the Glorious Vanity and the Corrupted Soul, and you're just going to be getting so much life and energy shield back that it's a super solid defensive layer. So very, very good. We are actually also going Mistress of Sacrifice, which means that we are going to be using not Flesh Offering, but Bone Offering for the block. Again, we're trying to get as much block chance as possible. One thing to note here is, let's go ahead and I'll show you real quick in items. Rumi's Concoction did get nerfed, feels bad, man. So we're gonna have a little bit less block than this, but still, it's gonna be fantastic. It's a really nice defensive layer to have this much block. So very, very good. So that's the tree itself. This is the regular Finder build, and once you get to more of the, you know, semi-end game, you can maybe thinking about switching over to the Doriani Timeless Jewel for that extra bit of energy shield. Perfect. So let's go ahead and go over to the skills. I'll show you guys. I do have a boss setup and a mapping setup just so you can kind of see what the gem swap would be. And it's a super simple swap. It's literally just one gem. So you would switch, here's your boss setup, slower projectiles, and once you're mapping, you just throw in greater multiple projectiles. Easy peasy. So this is the setup, super good setup. The Vol Summon Skeletons, I definitely wanted to mention that to you guys. If you can get one early, it is fantastic. It's a massive damage increase, massive damage increase. So if you can pick one up even on a trade link for, you know, a few chaos, that is a pretty solid starter item purchase, is a Vol Summon Skeletons. And maybe I would even say, like, when you're getting Vol Gems or like the Vol Orbs as you level up, buy a Summon Skeletons and then Vol it, and I think it's a 1 in 6 chance to get Vol Summon Skeletons, so 6 Vol Orbs and you'll probably have one. So not too bad, not too bad. Everything else is pretty standard here. The Elemental Focus did get a pretty big nerf, but it is still a very good skill. So I mean, we're just gonna have to deal with the damage loss there. Not gonna be a huge deal. And I think that was really the only kind of big gem that we got a big nerf on, was that one. So everything else is pretty much fine. Like I said, we are going block, so we're gonna do Bone Offering. Zealotry is also pretty big. Since we do have skeleton mages, they do spell damage. So Zealotry helps pretty good. What I would say here is until you get Enlighten, you actually don't need Enlighten 4, and Enlighten 3 is just fine. But until you get the Enlighten 3, I would skip Vitality. And you're gonna have a whole bunch of mana to cast. So Summon Skeletons does cost a good bit of mana, so I would recommend getting that Enduring Mana Flask, which also got nerfed, but it still is probably required. But once you get that Enlighten, you can go ahead and use the Vitality, and you'll be just fine. So Other than that, there's really nothing too crazy on the skills. We are using Sniper's Mark because mages are projectile damage, right? So Sniper's Mark is actually a huge damage number. We go, I'll show you, but I'm not gonna show. Yeah, I mean it's a pretty good chunk here, 2.7 million, and it goes down to 1.9 million. So that's a pretty big chunk for Sniper's Mark. I did want to mention though that this damage number down here, full DPS, it's not really working for the skeletons. I'm not really sure what's going on with POB, but that's not accurate. It actually is a little bit more than that. I think probably even maybe double more than that, because 2.7 million, that doesn't feel right for me being able to kill the feared with this for 2.7 million. So I think that's a little bit wrong. So don't really trust that, but that's really all you kind of want to know on the skills itself. Let's go ahead and go over to the items. Very basic items here. I have not spent much currency on this build at all. I have kind of crafted some items here so you guys can see what it would look like for the in-game items. Not in-game, but some of the later items that you would get within the League Starter version. And they're all super cheap. Like you can see this, I bought this for 10 chaos, this wand, very cheap. And you'll actually be able to see some of these that I may have bought for maybe just that one, the 10 chaos. But everything was around there. Every item that I bought was under 20 chaos for this build, and I killed the feared with it. So very solid. A couple important things to note here. Let's go down here. The helmet, it is pretty nice to get that +1 to skeletons craft. So that is a craft from June. So you can either get this yourself or you can have someone else craft it for you. Very strong. The amulet getting +1 to skeleton is also very strong. You don't have to get any other stats really on there. As you can see on this one, I got the basically one of the cheapest ones possible. It has absolute poo-poo stats on it, but it had that +1 to skeletons, which was very good. And you'll just kind of go through down here and you'll see that these items are just really bad. One good thing to note here on the belt is this is actually pretty solid. The minions have 7% chance to taunt on hit with attacks. Oh, that's attacks. You know what? We're gonna have to actually look at that and maybe even not use that. I know that there is one for like blind and stuff, but the point here on the Ghastly Eye Jewel is definitely get the life, and the minions deal increased damage if you used a minion skill recently. I'll have to edit that and make sure you guys don't get the chance to taunt and hit with attacks, because obviously summon mages aren't using attacks or using spells. So I'll fix that, no worries for that. The most important thing there is definitely getting life, and minions deal increased damage if used a minion skill recently. That's a whole bunch of damage. 20% is very solid, and you're always using minion skills, so very good. One thing to note here though is this forbidden taste. I wanted to keep it on here because I wanted to talk about it. We're actually not going to use this, and it makes me sad. They nerfed this flask to the ground. It is dead. So you see where it says 8% of maximum life taken is chaos damage per second? It's now 25%. That is bonkers. No one is going to use this flask. So that just made me salty. We're actually going to get a blood of the Karui. So that's the new flask that we're going to get for our life flask, or you could just use a regular life flask. I like blood of the Karui pretty good because it goes up to 3,500 life, so pretty solid. So I would get that one. Everything else you definitely want to use. A lot of these flasks got nerfed, and it just is what it is, but it's still very solid. Like the Taste of Hate got nerfed, but it's still a great flask. The Rumi's Concoction, like I said, got nerfed, but it's a great flask. So kind of sad, but it is what it is. Last few things I'll mention on here. The absolute most important item in this build is the build enabling unique here. It's called Dead Reckoning. These are usually pretty cheap. You can get them for a few chaos, up to 10 chaos max probably. I guess depending on how many people choose this build. But what this does is it turns your skeletons into skeleton mages. So that basically enables the whole build. So until you get this, you will be using regular skeletons that are the melee guys. Once you get this, they'll have the caster tag and they'll start shooting out projectiles, and you will kind of want to switch your gems out, and I do go over that in the leveling guide, but you will switch your gems out once you get Dead Reckoning. I would say probably this should be your probably your first purchase of the league. Save up your currency and get this as soon as possible, because it makes your leveling experience so much better. It makes your mapping experience once you get to maps so much better. Your clear speed will just go off the charts once you get Dead Reckoning. So pick that up first. Your other two jewels here are usually pretty cheap. You can get them for like 5 to 20 chaos max, but it gives your minions a ton of defenses and some pretty solid offenses. So Quickening Covenant and Fortress Covenant are very, very good choices here. The other stuff, like I said, we just have minions deal increased damage if you've used a minion skill recently. It is pretty good to get stuff like, the additional chaos damage, additional fire damage, additional cold damage. You can usually get them for pretty cheap. You'll see here that I got some 45 chaos, and that's probably like one of the better ones that you can get. It's like a tier 1 roll. 35 chaos. I think that was a tier 2 roll for that, deals 15 to 19 fire damage. So even like a really good jewel, it's not even that expensive, so not too bad. And then, like I said, I already talked about this one, Blessed Rebirth is just so important. Make sure you guys are getting Blessed Rebirth as early as possible. It really, really helps. Quality of life out the roof. All right, very good. And I think that is pretty much it for the skills. Do note here on the notes section, we do have, if you want to just use Path of Building, you can. We do have a leveling guide in Path of Building. I would say, however, use what I'm about to show you, and you'll have this all linked down in the description for you guys. You'll have the Path of Building, you'll have the leveling guide, you'll have the trade links. All of that's going to be linked down in the description, so check that out. But I would prefer you guys use what I'll show you next because it's color coded, and you'll see here in a second. But the links are in here, guys, if y'all want to use that. So that's really all for the Path of Building. Let's go ahead and move on to this right here, which is the leveling guide. So this is what I would consider the more in-depth version, and I'll just kind of mention a few things here about how to actually use this. So as you can tell, underline is quest reward, bold is purchase from vendor, and we are going by levels. And I do have some indicators of like it's either an actual quest or kind of like when you want to pick it up. So like after Tidal Island, a lower prison waypoint, that type of stuff. But most of them are like quests after Brutus, Merveil's Lair. So I'll just give you, for example, leveling a skeleton mage, Holy Flame Totem. So basically what we're going to do here is we're actually going to start off with Flame Totem, and it's a pretty good combo. I think I saw Tai use this, and I started using it, and I absolutely love it. And then you kind of switch to summons a little bit later. But Freezing Pulse, Arcane Surge, right? So here's the example, right? So Holy Flame Totem, we would buy that. Summon Phantasm, you can get that from the quest reward. Summon Raging Spirits, you get that from the quest reward. You buy Flame Wall. So you guys kind of get what I'm saying here. And Frostblink. Now I will kind of mention this. As you guys might have seen in the patch notes, pretty much all of the movement skills got nerfed to the ground. Feels bad. Especially Smoke Mine and Flame Dash. They got gutted. So I'm curious if Frostblink is going to be maybe the one that we want to go with. So I would just kind of test that out. Obviously, I don't know yet because I haven't played it. Test out if you like Frostblink or Flame Dash or Smoke Mine better. I would say the safe choice is probably Frostblink. But yeah, so you use Holy Flame Totem for a little bit. Holy Flame Totem, Summon Phantasm, Combustion. That is actually a super good combo with Summon Raging Spirits, Infernal Legion, and minion damage. That actually is a super solid combo. You guys are going to be surprised at how fast you level with this combo right here, especially the Summon Raging Spirits, Infernal Legion. It's crazy. And then throwing up the Flame Wall, which is going to buff your Holy Flame Totem damage. Pretty solid. You drop it in here in a little bit, but it's a pretty solid for Act 1. And we pick up the Ray Zombie, so you can kind of see how we're doing this here. And I've put in some notes as well. So like drop Flame Totem plus Flame Wall once you have Skeletons, SRS, press Zombie. You'll kind of come down here. You'll see your first 4 link, which is going to be SRS, Infernal Legion, Minion Damage, and Elemental Focus. The library quest, you're gonna have to pick up some stuff. I'll say stuff like this, like level up in your offhand, because we're not gonna use it immediately. So level up in your offhand. So I've been relatively detailed with this. And also, for example, this should be your setup once you get the Dead Reckoning jewel, right? So summon skeletons, lesser multiple projectiles, pierce, minion damage, if you have Dead Reckoning jewel, right? And if you don't, this is what you use. So relatively informative here for you guys, and I hope this does help out. Go down to the notes. Basically, I give you your mapping setup. So if you kind of want to, do your leveling setup, and then once you've gotten to maps, and you have maybe a little bit of currency, you can just kind of go buy some gems. It's up to you. You can do that. And here's the exact version of what you're going to have as your mapping. Perfect. So that is the gem setup for leveling. Like I said, you can do it in the POB or you can do it in here. I would prefer you guys do it in here because it's color coded and it's a little bit easier to actually read. So either one is totally fine. So what you can also do, I have the link here, is trade site item buying. Again, this is going to be in the description for you guys. If you would click that, it's going to take you to this. And this is actually going to have all of my builds for this league period that you can go on here. So it'd be kind of cool to kind of look at some of my other builds. But specifically for skeleton mages, you'll just want to kind of come down here to the bottom tabs and you can scroll right or left until you get to skeleton mages necromancer. So on here, we've got a ton of good stuff for you guys. So you can have the POB here. This is the under 2x budget version. I do have a near min-maxed budget version, or a near min-maxed budget cost. It's gonna be around 50 exalts. I do have that POB if you guys are interested in checking out kind of what you can work towards. I've got some extra information over here. Bandits kill all, bad map mods. We don't really want to run Elemental Reflect. We're going to anoint Death Attunement. So lots of good information here. And there's that link again to the gym leveling guide. And here's what I want to show you guys. So I spent a lot of time on this and I really hope you guys like it and it helps you out. So weapon, you can literally just come in here, click this, and bam. It's perfect. It goes you right to the items that you want and you can buy it. It's that simple. You don't need to do any of the searching yourself. I've done all of that for you guys and I've parsed everything that you need and it's literally the exact items that you want. So for the uniques, Lionized Remorse here, click it, bam, you got your item. Make it as easy as possible. And kind of the way that I've done this, you can kind of see up here, I've done like, 1 star means this build is required, 3 star is a priority upgrade, and you can kind of see color coded as well, right? So blue are the cheap items, right? And then purple is the medium items, medium budget, and the red is the near min-maxed cost. So like you would click the rare, right? If you want them, see what the best weapon that you can buy, it's this. 40x, that's crazy. Or that other one that I showed you was like 15 or 15 chaos, right? And I've also included some notes on here for you guys, so if y'all want to check those out, you can kind of see why we're picking some of these items. So I would definitely suggest you kind of read some of these before you make the purchase. It might help you make that purchase. One really good thing to note here is this one is actually crazy. So for your body armor, you can either start out with that super cheap 6-link, right? Or you can go with a flesh crafter. These are actually usually super cheap, 1 chaos. And even a 6-link, I was getting them for like 1.5 to 2 exalts. For a 6-link, it's super crazy. Let me show you guys this item. So really good. Okay, so here's the reason it's really good. This is the big one right here. While minions have energy shield, and this is going to make them always have energy shield because they're going to convert their max life into energy shield basically, so they're always going to have energy shield. Their hits ignore monster elemental resistances. That is insane. So basically they penetrate elemental resistances for all of their attacks, all of their spells, and they're doing lightning, cold, and fire, right? So it's not good to, like, usually you have, like frostbite, right, for a curse, and it only affects the cold, or you have like cold pen, lightning pen, or even have that elemental penetration. Sure, that's great. But this is taking care of all that for you guys. Their hits ignore monster elemental resistance. It's just crazy, and it's super cheap. Very good item for skeletons. So take a look at that. Get that early 6-link if you can, if it's cheap. I'm not sure. It's usually cheap. I hope it stays cheap for this league. I would assume that it does. I'm curious how many people play this build. Like I said, I think this is going to be the top minion build. So I would suggest playing this myself. If I was doing a minion build, this is what I would be playing. But yeah, you can kind of go down here and just see the upgrades and kind of choose what works for you based off of budget. You get the cheap one for the blue, you can get a little bit more expensive and get the purple items, or you can get those min-max items in red. It's got the cluster jewels, it's got your rings, it's got everything that you want. Kind of come down here, you can get some extra. Dead Reckoning is required. I've mandatory, I've bolded it here. Very important. This should be your first purchase of the league. Coming down here, there's some more items, and then other important items. Rumi's Concoction, Forbidden Taste. You know what? I'll have to move that. I'll switch that for you guys. Remember I said the Forbidden Taste just got nerfed to the ground. We'll do Blood of the Karui. So let's do Blood of the Karui, and I'll fix that before I post this, guys, for you guys. and then Taste of Hate. So that's really everything that you need for all of your items that you're going to buy. I hope you guys like this. If y'all do, definitely let me know in the comments section. I'll keep doing it for all my builds. So, and I've also included over here, like I said, there's going to be 2 different versions of leveling your gyms. This is going to be the cheat sheet. So it's not as detailed as far as like, you know, which acts that you get stuff in, but it's going to be a super easy kind of, you know, you look at it, you see what gyms you want to have at the end of the act. You see the colors, which I think is the most important. It just kind of helps you visualize what you want for your build. And then I have the maps version over here. And then like I have the links down here, right? So that full write-up guide can be here. And I also have the next thing that we're going to talk about is the custom leveling loot filter. So I've made a custom filter for you guys that y'all can come to. It is this one right here, the summoner leveling. So click that. You're going to want to on mine, it says edit, right? It'll say edit and delete, but when you guys do it, it's going to say follow. So you want to follow it. And that summoner leveling is going to give you the exact colors that you need for this situation right here, right? So it'll show you items that are blue, blue, blue. It's going to have like a beam that shows on it. It's going to be colored special. You know, your blue, 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 blue. It's going to show you all this stuff, and it makes leveling so much easier. A lot of people have been using my custom leveling filters for some of my other minion builds, and everyone comments says how they love it. So I really suggest you guys take the little bit extra time to come to this. Again, it's going to be linked in the description below. Hit follow, use this. It's going to make your life so much easier. I'm going to use it myself. And I spent a good amount of time making sure that it works perfectly for the build. What I would say is it is a leveling filter, right? So once you get up to maps, definitely turn it off and use your normal leveling filter. You could go to use a normal never sync leveling filter. You could use any one that you want, but I would suggest turning it off once you get to maps, because at that point you're not really looking for colors anymore, right? So that's the only thing I would mention about that. And I think that really covers it, guys. We went over the POB. We went over the leveling the gyms here, the not only the cheat sheet, but also the how to purchase your items, all the notes that I have in here. So like I said, not too much about the build itself. You kind of got to see what it looked like in action. So I hope you guys got a good feel of what it is. But really I wanted to make this about all of the tools for you guys to use as resources when leveling this build, just to make it as easy as possible for you guys. I hope I didn't make it so easy that it's complicated. I have so many different like little resources, so let me know if you guys would prefer me to kind of minimize this stuff. Maybe this looks crazy to you guys. If there's another way I could format it, I'm totally up to suggestions. You guys let me know what works best for you guys. And if you guys do choose this build, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it is successful for you. I'm almost positive that it's gonna be. I have a really good feeling about this build. So I hope you guys choose it, and I hope you guys like it. You guys let me know in the comments if y'all did choose it and how it goes for you. That's all I got on this one. I will catch you guys in the next build guide. See ya.